My friends at Easy Cater are workplace catering pros, helping you find food for everything from daily employee meals to staff meetings and special events. Visit easycater.com/leaderassistant to find out more.
I'm Suzy Sanders, and today's leadership quote comes from Brené Brown. I want to be in the arena. I want to be brave with my life. And when we make the choice to dare greatly, we sign up to get our asses kicked. We can choose courage or we can choose comfort, but we can't have both, not at the same time.
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
Hey friends, thanks for tuning in to episode 85. I just wanted to let you know that I have a lot of interviews in the hopper. What I did was I originally bulk recorded dozens and dozens of interviews and realized after a few months that I wasn't able to publish them as quickly as I recorded them. So I've got several interviews coming up that I actually recorded a year ago or even a little bit longer. So I've learned my lesson to bulk record in smaller bulks, if that makes sense. And I'm going to be publishing out all of these episodes over the next few months. And then I'm not recording new episodes until I get a little closer to the end of this batch so that I can record and publish in a shorter time frame so that hopefully things are a little more live and timely. But that said, all of these interviews that I'm publishing still have timeless wisdom from my guests and valuable content that I think you're going to enjoy. So anyway, just wanted to give a heads up. If you hear references or notes from guests or myself, a lot of these were pre-COVID interviews. A lot of these were even in 2019. So just thanks for your patience as I slowly edit and publish these one a week, and hopefully you're enjoying them. And if you are enjoying them, please do subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you listening and appreciate your support. So let's jump right in. Check out the show notes at leaderassistant.com/85 for this week's episode links. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Leader Assistant podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and today I am speaking with Suzy Sanders, the founder of Alchemy Virtual Assistance. Hey Suzy, how are you?
Hey, hi Jeremy. I am very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just waking up in St. Louis, Missouri. What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Northamptonshire in the UK, and it's early afternoon now, so.
Awesome. So what was your very first job, and what did you learn from it that you still use today?
My very first job, when I was still at school, I did work experience in a pet shop, which has no context to what I'm doing now, but I'm a nature lover. I've always loved animals, and I think one of the most standout things about that job was I kind of realized even at quite a young age I'd got quite a strong work ethic, and I didn't really kind of realize that I could get satisfaction from work. So piecing that together, and I've got my parents to thank for that, but I think that work ethic has only ever got stronger, and that was the first time I was really aware of it.
So then what kind of trajectory did your career have, and how did you become an EA, and why?
Well, I kind of bounced around a lot of different jobs because I was leaving college. I was unsure about what I wanted to do. So I think like quite a lot of people, I kind of ended up in the EA role by chance. Perhaps it wasn't at the time an intentional choice, but I'm really thankful for it. And I had always worked for kind of smaller companies where I could get involved with loads of different functions. And my first kind of PA role was in a more large corporate company. So I think it was definitely the variety that drew me. And at the time, I think it was the lull of working for the magic of working for a larger company as well. It all was a bit kind of corporate and polished. And I think I kind of, having always worked in quite small family run companies, that kind of appealed to me a little bit.
So do you have any funny or crazy or, interesting stories of times when you saved the day in the big corporate EA job?
Oh, good question. And I'm going to say, yes, there are a lot. But my last EA role, I was supporting the chief HR officer. So I wouldn't be able to share any of them.
Probably a good answer for your reputation, right?
Yeah, not worth risking sharing any stories there. So maybe if you buy me a couple of gins, I'll tell you some. But
Nice. So what about mistakes? Was there any mistakes that you made that kind of bigger mistakes that you really learned from?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think for quite a large part of my adult life, I've always been terrified of making mistakes. It's not till I started up as a VA and started my own business that I realized that actually they're such a good thing. And everybody makes them. And I think the biggest mistake that I've ever made is, and this is probably quite, well, it's not very specific, but I think not listening to my instincts on a lot of stuff. And again, I'm not going to go into too many details, but just generally, broadly speaking, when you know something in your gut isn't feeling right, kind of listen to that. I think that's probably the biggest mistake I've made as an assistant.
So tell us about your transition from that kind of corporate PA, EA world to becoming a virtual assistant.
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, my little boy kind of started everything for me. He was born in 2015. I was really fortunate. I took some time out to transition into motherhood, and it completely changed me. I wasn't prepared for how much it would. And, and I felt that when I went back into that corporate environment, I felt that I wasn't the same person anymore. And obviously my priorities had changed, my focus had shifted. And, I'm consider myself quite fortunate. I had an incredibly great, wonderful pregnancy. I had a really empowering birth. And without being too corny, I kind of felt quite empowered by that. And I thought I've always had this kind of burning desire to kind of do my own thing and start my own business. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, now's the time. So I kind of, long story short, took the plunge. I first came across the concept of a virtual assistant when I was on maternity leave. So I spent a lot of time doing some reading and research, and I was up all night anyway, so it was a perfect time to start kind of gathering my thoughts and planning what I was going to do. And I took the plunge, left my job, and focused on the business.
So how did you get your first client?
My first client came to me. We still work together. She's incredibly a dear friend of mine now, actually. But she came to me through one of my friends who I'd confided in, and just said, "Look, this is what I'm thinking about doing." And they were very supportive. And then they came across one of their connections who needed it, and they just kind of put us in touch. So I think my first 3 clients came from my personal network, which was a really great starting point for me.
That's great. So when did you think, okay, you're a virtual assistant, you've got a few clients. When did you think, and how did that transition happen where you're like, oh, you know what, I can make this a business and I'm going to hire other virtual assistants and get more clients?
I think it took me a while to realise. I probably shouldn't say that, but I think I realised quite early on that I was enjoying everything that came with it. I wasn't just getting handed work. I didn't have a responsibility anymore. I had to go and kind of find and nurture those relationships, and I really enjoyed that. And it took me probably a little bit longer to realise that I needed more help. I was very fortunate. The work was there and was was flowing quite well. And I think I had this kind of, I'm just going to do everything myself attitude for quite a while. And obviously my husband is my business partner now, so we work together, which is great. And he has always been so supportive. I wouldn't have even gone it alone without his kind of emotional and practical support. And it was kind of conversations with him that made me realise that I needed to, if I was honest, needed to do something for my own sanity than anything. And yeah, he helped me kind of work out what that was all going to look like. And he eventually ended up coming to help me himself, which is great.
Nice. How has it been working with your spouse on running a business together?
It's, do you know what? It's really fun. It's hard work, and it's definitely not for everyone. But and he gets a lot more stick than I do. I think he gets people poking fun at him. How can you work with your wife? And we've got our office set up at home now. In reality, we're probably not in the office together all day, every day, anyway. But for us, it works really well. For me, I overnight kind of gained a business partner who had been involved since day one anyway, and I completely trust. He knows me better than I know myself. It just, all those things really just, it works well. But, on the flip side, we do have to kind of set rules, no work at the weekends, because we're both so passionate about the business, it's always on our mind. But, the boundaries have to be we have to be quite firm with the boundaries. And we do have the occasional disagreement, but again, we know each other so well, preempt and work our ways out of those. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Nice. So have you ever experienced burnout? And if so, what have you done to prevent it from happening again?
Yeah. I think actually my husband Paul coming on board with the business was probably one of the outputs of my burnout. And that was kind of 2017. I kind of thrown myself at my business and needed to find clients, needed to find work, needed to get the website, needed to do this, etc., etc. When you're self-employed, the list never stops. And when you're passionate about what you're doing, it never ends. There's always something to do or improve. So I think I'd just kind of gone relentlessly for so long. And then obviously I was taking good care of my clients and trying to keep on top of all of the work and add value and be proactive. And I just got to this place where I was just so tired and, drained, and I was making stupid mistakes. And then I realized I kind of hit this place. I was like, this is not what I started my business to do. I wanted a little bit more freedom. I wanted flexibility. I wanted fulfillment. And now I'm just working like longer and harder than I ever have. And I kind of, and I went to my husband in tears one night and was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go and get a job. I'm just going to go and find a job. I know a few people in recruitment. I can find something. And he said to me, I support you 100%, but I'm going to struggle to let you do that. Like, I'm going to struggle to watch you do that. So we kind of had a lot of heart to hearts. And I just said to him, well, are you going to come and help me? Because I can't do this all on my own. And he said, yeah, sure. Okay. And then we kind of just started working together and piecing together how everything would work. And I think, so at the time while I felt like pretty low, incredibly stretched, incredibly emotional, and, still trying to be a good wife, still trying to be a good mother, and, too much, spread too thin. And I'm really mindful of that because it was a really dark patch for me. And I kind of feel I'm grateful that I went through it because it taught me a lot. And now I kind of try to practice what I preach, I guess, in terms of outsourcing and delegating. And, I know the value of having the right people doing the right things. But also, the term self-care gets thrown around a lot, but I've learned to prioritize myself a lot more, and having time when I can just be Suzy and not be business owner or not be VA or not be mother, or, not just so I can just strip back from all these labels and just have some time where I can just be me. And if that's reading a book or sitting in my garden, fine. It's not a waste of time. That's my time. And I'm quite embarrassed that it took me a few decades to realize that that's so important.
Well, thanks for sharing. And it sounds like you have great support, and setting boundaries, like not working all weekend, is helping a lot.
Yeah, I think boundaries is an ever growing challenge, isn't it? I think in any capacity.
So let's talk a little bit about your business. How do you help your remote VAs feel valued and part of the overall team?
Oh, I think in any relationship it's communication, isn't it? And I'm fortunate because Paul and I obviously spend a lot of time together and we communicate a lot. But in terms of the team, it's kind of making sure that we're having Skype, utilizing what technology we have available to us. So jumping on Skype and having a catch up every week or every other week or however it's working out. We have a WhatsApp group as well for kind of sharing funny stories, wins, that kind of thing. And we do actually have an awesome points board, which is on our whiteboard in our office. So whenever someone's done something that they think is awesome, then they share that. And then we have like a little bit of a kind of competition, I guess. But it's, there's no prizes. It's just we're doing it for bragging rights of who gets the most awesome points each month. And that's just a bit of fun. And I think communication is definitely the biggest part of that. And I'm a big fan of kind of more traditional old-fashioned methods in the sense of like writing thank you cards and sending little personal gifts and stuff, and that's something that I do with my clients as well. I think I love getting a card in the post. I think in our modern world, all the information and communication methods that we have, I think sometimes traditional is sometimes it's a little bit different.
Yeah. So how big is your team? How many VAs do you have?
I've got Paul and I, and we've got 2 others at the moment. But we're kind of changing the way we do things going forward. So that's hopefully going to be changing soon.
Nice. And how many clients, roughly?
Oh, my goodness. We have, I should know that straight away, shouldn't I? That's really embarrassing. I think we've probably, on our books as clients, we've probably got 40 to 50, wow. But not all of that's retained. Obviously, we've got people that come to us when they just need seasonal stuff or ad hoc stuff. But more retained ongoing, which is, as an ex-EA, much more my bag. I'm much more comfortable working ongoing basis with people. So obviously that's a lot less. It's probably about 20.
So what would you tell an in-office assistant who wants to become a remote virtual assistant?
What would I tell them? Do your homework. Do your homework. Be realistic and look at the numbers and do your maths. Make sure that you know what you would be expecting to earn and what you would be expecting to charge. And if everything balances up, then just dare greatly, right? Be brave, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? I'm a big believer in kind of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. But, you've got to be sensible about things as well and make sure that you have done your research and you have done your homework because it's hard.
Yeah. So what's what's kind of the hardest part about the remote part? Maybe other than feeling connected and communication like we talked about, what's kind of one of the other hard parts about it?
I think I suppose just stemming from that, I think it can be quite lonely when I made the conscious choice that I wanted to work from home. But when I do kind of miss the office environment at sometimes and having someone just to bounce ideas off with there and then. And I think that can easily be overcome by having and growing a supportive network. But I think that's probably the biggest thing, that some days that, I've spent days where I've just been in the office all day, every day. I've not really spoken to someone. I've just been focused. So I think it can be quite lonely. And I think people don't really recognize that. It's you get to work from home and you get to do this and you get to do that. And it's like, it can be quite isolating if you're not careful. And that's something that, people don't necessarily want to talk about as well. Like admitting you're a bit lonely. It sounds tragic, but you've got to be mindful of, I work best on my own. I'm definitely if I'm in the office on my own and there's no one here, I'm far more productive. Mm-hmm. But again, everything comes down to balance, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. I like to work in a dark closet by myself and get a lot more done that way.
That was one of the challenges working with my husband, actually, because he's definitely a lot more kind of chatty and he likes to have a laugh and a joke. And I do too, but I'm just like, no, you need to just be quiet now. I'm working.
Nice. So you worked in the recruiting industry for a while. Could you share any tips for finding quality team members?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because I always used to say to people, I worked in recruitment, but I wasn't a recruiter myself. But I think I kind of underestimate how much I picked up. And I think tips for me personally, I think I'd always look for kind of mindset and attitude over anything else. I'd probably prioritize that. And again, coming back to instinct, how you feel about somebody, and that should be, in my opinion, that should be something that's definitely factored in or placed an importance of. It's not just what skills and experiences they have. I think that it's the whole person, isn't it, that you're buying into. So you should look at the whole person.
Yeah. So what about the hiring process and the interview process? Do you have any interview questions that you love, or tips for hiring an assistant specifically?
Oh, it's funny because I know it's really, really corny, but I personally love those kind of, if you were an animal, what would you be type questions. If you were a fruit, what would you be? Because I just think they are a little bit kind of cliched, but I think you really get to see how someone thinks on their feet in response to that. And I think it's a nice little insight into the person again. But I think competency-based probably is again, balance of the competency-based. Can you tell me when? I think are always great questions. If you've got a specific challenge or purpose, to be able to tease out of them and get them to give you examples of when they've used or overcome those kind of challenges. And on the whole, even in my business now, I love to just ask people what their greatest challenge has been, because I think you can tell an awful lot about a person by A, what that challenge is, and B, how they've overcome it. I think that's always a really great question to ask.
So if you were an animal, what animal would you be?
I'm so happy that you asked that. And you do know I'm going to be asking this question straight to you. If I was an animal, I would probably love to be a dolphin, because I'm a complete water baby. I am most at home when I'm near the ocean. And I say that where I live in Northampton is literally as central in the UK. I'm as far from the coast as I possibly could be. And I'm working on addressing that. But also, I think, dolphins have got quite a good reputation. They're quite known to be quite sociable and family orientated and quite good fun and intelligent, if I can say that, without sounding too big headed. But I just think they're a good water dwelling animal or mammal. But how about you? What animal would you be?
Oh man, I've always thought, I've always liked cheetahs because they're fast, and I always like the idea of being fast. But I really think if I really got to choose, I would be some sort of bird that could just fly up, because I always have liked rooftop decks and the mountains and just being high up and seeing things. So I think that's what I I would be some sort of bird. I don't really care which one, as long as it can fly far.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
Great answer.
all right. Well, what makes an assistant a leader?
Oh, what makes an assistant a leader? Think, I think, what makes them? I'm trying to think how to answer this eloquently without being too broad. And I think generally, other than the fact that most of us are, I do think it is, again, coming down to the mindset piece and the self-belief, and kind of owning that as an assistant you can be a leader, or you are a leader, and kind of having that mindset shift, that acceptance, and the belief that you deserve that.
How about tips for assistants who are also mothers to young kids?
Coffee. Coffee and power naps. I don't know. I think reflecting on kind of my son's still quite young, so I'm kind of still relatively new to the motherhood path. But I think the greatest bit of advice that I continually get given is to just be gentle on yourself, because I think there's a huge amount of guilt associated with being a mother in our modern world, and you're expected to be the great mom, be the great employee, or you're supposed to be doing it all, and I think there's a great deal of guilt that we put on ourselves. That and I know in my own experience, when I'm with my son, I want to preserve and protect that time, but a part of me feels guilty because I should be working, and vice versa. When I'm working, I feel guilty because my son is so young, I need to be with him. So I think just being gentle on yourself and accepting that you can't do it all, and you can only do your best, and that is enough.
Love it. Yeah, I think one thing I would share with, having two young boys, I like to have them involved in what I'm doing in some way. So, for the podcast, you'll hear their voices on the podcast. For my day job, I'll have them. There'll be days where, my wife coaches track and field, and so have a track practice, and I'll say, instead of getting a babysitter, I'll bring him to the office and let him kind of hang out with me for a couple hours.
I love that.
And just so they can kind of see and be aware of, where their dad is and what he's doing and what his office looks like. And they like to draw me pictures for my office and come hang them up. And so just having them involved and not letting that world be so separate from them has been helpful for us.
You're absolutely right. And it's funny, Paul and I were having this conversation recently, because obviously we have our office at home. So our little boy Rex comes in and he loves sitting and drawing pictures and things too. And I've always said to him, I'm going to work, or I'm going to a meeting or something. And Paul challenged me on it recently. I'm like, why are we not telling him we're running a business? And he's quite right. I want him involved and to know what we're doing. And a few of my friends, I've been to networking events and they've brought along their children. And my boy's still a bit too young for that. But I just think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant for them to see, what their parents are doing, but also learn those skills of kind of standing up and talking in front of people, which terrifies me as an adult, but I've seen like young teenage kids doing it and smashing it, and I just think it's so important. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Suzy, thanks so much for taking time out of your day. And how can we support what you're up to, and where can we find you online?
Oh, thank you. It's been really, really lovely talking to you. So thank you for your time too. And I guess check out the website, alchemyva.co.uk, and look me up on LinkedIn, and I'll connect, because it's always good to hear and see what others are up to and how we can support each other. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, we'll share those links on the show notes, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again to Suzy for a great interview. Check out the show notes at leaderassistant.com/85. and we will talk to you next time.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com